Shabbat Shalom. Growing up as one of about 30 Jews in my 3,000 person high school in Wisconsin, I found myself often being called on to represent the Jewish people to all of those gathered. Around the holidays, I had to explain what they were, what they meant, why I wasn't in class. In history, anytime anything Jewish ever came up, everyone in the room would turn straight to me and say, "Ethan, could you please explain this?" 14-year-old me, of course, could. Or, of course, the winter music concert, where amidst other carols and hymns that we sang, there would be one Hanukkah song sung with the entire choir looking at me like, do you like this? It's for you. But you don't have to grow up away from the Jewish population centers in this country to feel like often we have to represent the Jews, the Jewish people, Jewish values in a group. And in this last year and a half, we have all been called on time and time again to speak for, to speak up for Jews and Jewish values. And when we do, and when we are called on to represent what we understand Jewish history to be, what we understand Jewish notions to be, sometimes it's because there are others who ask us, who want to know what we as Jews think of things that are going on. And other times, it's because no one asked. But we need to make sure that our views and values are heard. And I felt this way last week when I sat down with a candidate for the local school board election. That is, the primary is coming up this week. And a non-Jewish candidate asked to meet with me. She wanted to talk about the Jewish community. She wanted to understand from my perspective what was going on in the world. What did I think about what's going on in the schools? And she asked some very well put questions about Judaism. She wanted to learn about history and anti-Semitism. And she wanted to talk about how our communities can work together to make our schools safe for everyone and great places to learn. It was really a wonderful conversation. And I was impressed that this person cared enough to reach out, that she wanted to know about us, about what we need, what we feel, how we can go forward and be together. Now, I'm not sure that I'm allowed to say her name from the bima, and with an IRS employee in the front row, I'm not risking our 501(c)(3) status. But I'm happy to talk more about specifics of the school board and the election to anyone who want to talk later, and it is important that all of our voices are heard in this upcoming election, so please find out where and how to vote this week and then for the election. Because whatever the reason, whether it is at work or school, with our own family members or with people that we are just meeting, when we are asked to give our take on Jewish issues, there's something inherently awkward, maybe even a little bit icky, when we are meant or asked to stand up as a representative of our people, especially if it means potentially airing our dirty laundry in front of someone not of the community. Whenever there are statements or op-eds in prominent places by prominent Jews about Israel, anti-Semitism, Judaism, whatever it is, from whatever direction they're coming from, the most often comment that I hear is, "Rabbi, whether or not I agree or disagree, I wish they wouldn't say these things in public." Because we as Jews come from a long and frankly well-earned tradition of Jews not wanting to speak up about our internal debates to others and in public. And we might fear to talk publicly because it's possible that we don't trust the person to whom we are speaking, that they really have our best intent at heart. The Mishnah warns us to be careful in your dealings with the ruling authorities, for they do not befriend a person except for their own needs. They seem like friends when it is in their own interest, but they do not stand by us in our hour of distress. And over the course of Jewish history, that has been both true and not true. When we try to speak up for our beliefs, whether we are speaking to the government or even just our families and friends, there might be a fear that they will use our words in a way that we don't intend. This fear is real, and we have to be careful about what we say to others for sure, and we should know how and whom to trust. But we also can't let fears keep us from speaking up about our people and our beliefs. Now, we also might not want to speak up because we are worried about ourselves, that we are imperfect ambassadors for our message. The Torah that we read this morning tells us that priests can't have any blemish or defect. One imperfection disqualifies a priest from service. And we might feel like we have to be flawless in order to speak up as a Jew. We have to know absolutely everything. We have to keep kosher and holidays and third day yontif. We have to do everything to the maximum if we are going to say, as a Jew, I believe. But the perfection required of priests is not a standard where we should hold for ourselves. We don't need to be perfect to speak up about how events in the world affect us as Jews. We shouldn't pretend to have more knowledge about something than we do. That's my job. But we should thank you. But we should be humble and honest and speak for ourselves and our experience of how the things in the world affect us. It's also possible that we're worried that what we say and the consequences of getting it wrong might affect others or affect our people negatively. I will forever remember a conversation that I had in Israel with a friend who came to me. She wanted to convert to Judaism, but she had some serious reservations about it. And despite our many conversations, I couldn't seem to give her the answers that she needed. And over the course of this time, I really felt like I was failing the Jewish people, that I was not representing us well, and that's why she didn't want to convert. And that fear is real as well. There's a divine command in our Parsha today that says, when speaking of God, you shall not profane my holy name. V'lo techalalu et shem kodshi. You cannot profane God's name because God must be sanctified. And the rabbis question, what does it mean to profane God's name? Right? It might mean that you say a blessing and then you don't do the thing, right? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and then you walk away from the bread. That might be what it means to take God's name in vain. But to lo tichalel means to not actively do something that would profane God and God's name. So Rashi helps us out a little bit, and he says that what it means to profane God's name is to disobey the rules intentionally. To intentionally know that this is what I should do as a Jew, and I'm not going to do it. That is profaning God, because in that moment, we acknowledge that we should do something, and we remove ourselves from the people. We say, I'm not going to be a part of the people that are supposed to do this. And we know when we're speaking to someone about our Jewish lives, or when someone is speaking to us about theirs, that they need to be a part of the people, and they want to be a part of our people. Because if it's not true, then that's where the tichalel, the profaning of God and God's name, comes. Sometimes there is such anger that it can almost turn to hate. And sometimes there is anger and criticism that comes from a place of love. And sometimes we stand up for ourselves because we belong and we know that we belong. And that's not profaning God's name. We don't need to worry in those moments. If we're speaking from our hearts about who we are, about what we love, a people that we love, and a place that we love, then of course that's the right thing to do. And Ibn Ezra, another commentary, says that the profaning God's name is actually a rule that is only meant for the priests. That they have this special rule to not profane God's name because they have to watch what they do because they stand up as the representatives of the people. And that's something that we should take seriously because we do have a special role when it comes to speaking as a Jew or for whatever group that we belong to that we're speaking for. And that does mean that we have to speak carefully. It means that we also have to speak. because silence carries its own connotations and meaning. And Rabbeinu Bachya says that you can't read the first part of this verse, don't profane God's name, without the second part, V'nikdashi b'toch b'nei Yisrael, I will be sanctified among the people of Israel, because he says that is in fact the point of when we profane God's name. The Talmud says it's the one sin that Yom Kippur does not atone for. You can't expiate just by Yom Kippur coming. You have to actually do something. And so what does Bachya say? He says, if you have profaned God's name, the only way to make amends is to sanctify God's name, to do something that would be good for our people, good for God, speak good of the world. And he quotes in the book of Proverbs that says, "Bechesuv emet yichaper avon," right? Through emet, through truth, sin is atoned for. Because in moments where we either speak ill or where we don't speak at all, the only way to atone for that is to speak truth. Speaking truth might mean to apologize. Speaking truth might mean to actually speak up for who we are and what we believe. And it's only by speaking truth of who we are that we can make sure that our voices are heard. Because everyone in this room, has a right to speak for everyone in this room. And that's a little scary of a proposition sometimes, but it's true. When we go out into the world, we represent the Jewish people, like a field trip from middle school. Right? Remember, when you go into the zoo, you are representing. So, thanks for the 3 people who keep laughing at my jokes. And that is not something that we can take lightly, and it's also not something, unfortunately, that we can avoid. Wherever we are, whether we are speaking or whether we are not speaking, we are representing the Jewish people. And so we owe it to ourselves to teach ourselves to learn how to stand up for what we believe in. And that might mean learning something. If you want to learn more about the history, about our values, about what it means to be a Jew, that's important. I had a second meeting with a current school board member who wanted to speak to me also about what it means to be a Jew in this moment, serving our people, and learn a little bit not only about what we are, but also what we can be moving forward. And it was also an incredible conversation. If you don't know, come learn. We have lots of classes. There are lots of people. Rabbi Schwartzman will always take your call. But you have to speak up. With friends, with family, there's a lot going on in the world, and the Jewish people are involved in a lot of it. And our voice matters. The voices of the people in this room, what we think matters. We can't be too worried that we're going to profane the name of God. If we care about our people, if we love who we are, then we will speak well. If we speak truthfully about what we believe, then we will not violate this principle. So we have to teach ourselves to stand up. And we have to speak up to the people around us, sometimes because no one is considering the Jewish views, sometimes because the Jewish views that is being espoused is not the same as our own, and we want our voice to be heard as well. It's okay for everyone here to speak with an authoritative Jewish voice. It might even be what this moment requires. And when we do, we have to make sure, like Rashi, that we're speaking from a place of love, and we're not intentionally, of course, misrepresenting ourselves. Like Ibn Ezra, we recognize this special role that we have in this moment as representatives of a wonderful and ancient nation. And like Proverbs, we speak truth of who we are. And that is how we can and must hold our heads high to show that our Jewish lives stand for something to be proud of and to make sure that our voices are heard. Shabbat Shalom.